Good evening, everyone. We're just going to wait for the numbers to go up a little bit before we get started. So just to let you know, there's a question and answer facility if you want to ask us questions about the presentation this evening. If you are having any technical difficulties, can you pop those into the chat? So if you lose sound, and that's where that needs to go into the chat. The event will be recorded, so it will be available to you after this evening if you miss anything or want to just go back and check something. And at the end, I'll be giving some information about what to do next once you've heard all the information. So we're just waiting for the numbers to go up. If you do have any questions as we're going on, please put them in the Q&A and we'll respond to some of them as we go, and then some of them we'll respond to live at the end so we can give you the answers, give the answers to everybody at the same time. I'm going to get started now. So good afternoon to everybody from Worthing and Haywards Heath, and a very warm welcome to our first EPQ event. My name is Emma Prince and I'm one of the heads of learning at Worthing College, and I'm responsible for the qualification, and in the past I have supervised groups of students, so have a good understanding of how it works and the value to the students that take the qualification. The purpose of the event is to give you everything you need to make an informed decision about this opportunity as an extra qualification to take next year. Nikki is joining me this evening. She coordinates the qualification and will give you all the detail you need, as well as some perspectives of students taking the EPQ this year. As I've said, please add questions to the Q&A as we go along. We'll return to some of them live at the end, and any we're not able to cover this evening, we'll feed into an FAQ document after the event. Now I'm going to hand over to Nikki to give you all the information you need. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. As Emma said, my name's Nikki Rogerson and I'm the EPQ coordinator and teacher, and I'm based at Worthing College. So if you're applying to university, EPQ is a really good qualification to have, because it will take you through the step up from your A-levels to undergraduate work, which you'll be doing at university. So a good project is valued by universities, and the really good thing is that by undertaking EPQ, you will, I can guarantee this, you will do better and you will ease into your first year of undergraduate study so much better, because you will have an understanding of the skills and requirements that universities want, and you'll stand out from your peers. So by standing out from your peers, by doing the project, which universities really value, and also you can make that sort of step up and a really good head start, and you'll understand some of the skills that are required, or the skills that are required. So the project that you do for EPQ, you might even consider carrying that on into your dissertation in your third or fourth or fifth year, or whatever your course is all about, because it's something that might interest you. Okay, so you can continue researching that topic. Okay, can we move on to the next? Okay, so what is an EPQ? So it's a piece of independent research accompanied by a written piece of work. Okay, so what we've got, if we just take you through some of the options for EPQ that you can do. So lots of our students do dissertations, which you might have heard about as being a mini dissertation. So what you'll be doing is you'll be standing on the heads of giants, because what you will be doing, you will be investigating research that other researchers have already done prior to you doing this. So you won't actually be required to carry out any research for yourself, but what you'll be doing is it's a greater focus on using what we call secondary sources or research that other people have already carried out. So you'll be learning how to sift through this information and read, evaluate it, refine it to make sure it fits your question or your topic area. And you'll also be looking and doing a great deal of reading. So then your dissertation, if you like, your final project will be around 6,000 words in length. Okay. The next thing that you could do is perhaps if you're a scientist, you might wish to do an investigation or a field study. So you might want to carry out a practical investigative project. So you'll learn the importance of collecting or analysing and evaluating data to answer a question or support a problem that you'll solve, or a hypothesis. So you'll be carrying out practical elements to find out if the evidence supports your question or hypothesis. So you're going to have to validate the accuracy of the data to ensure the conclusion reached is robust. And then you'll write up your experiments or your field study, and that will be around 4,000 to 5,000 words. Okay. If you're perhaps doing a dance subject, or if you want to become an actor or a musician or a film, you're doing film studies or media, you might wish to look at doing a performance in front of an audience. So this is all about planning and researching and developing and evaluating the performance, researching potential materials, rehearsing the techniques and refining ideas and preparing and rehearsing the performance for an audience, and then carrying out that performance in front of an audience. And then again, writing up what you found out, again, about 4,000 to 5,000 words. So the last option you could consider is an artifact. So if you're an artist, it could be a sculpture or painting or a design for something. Even if you're perhaps doing computer science, you could produce a program or create an engineering, a robot or a car or something, based on a brief, either developed by you, or you can do this in conjunction with another party or an employer. So keeping individual records to document the process and the activities that you've undertaken with the planning and the diagrams, etc., and the decision-making project process. So hopefully there's a style of project that will suit you. And that's just giving you just a brief overview of what you could consider. And then at the end of the process, you give a presentation. So you show off your project, and you evaluate what you've learned throughout the process. So that's something that develops your soft skills of communication, which is really crucial for good presentations. And that's kind of like the culmination of all of your hard work. So, I want to stress that the assessment is not just about the finished project or the outcome, but it's also about managing and your time management, your organisation over the process. So we recommend a suggested 120 hours of guided learning. So not all of that will take place in the classroom, but it'll be a mixture of direct teaching and your own independent study. So remember, it's really important to stress that an EPQ is in addition to your normal subjects. Okay, so really consider if you are organised, or you can manage your time, or perhaps if this is an area that you wish to develop, because obviously once you go to university, you're going to be more responsible for organising your own studies and being more independent. Okay, can we move along, please? So the introduction to the extended project. So I just wanted to briefly go through the parts to the project itself. So what you'll be doing is organising your EPQ into the structure. So you need to think about having a project proposal. So this is maybe the subject focus that actually drives your project. So this is where you're going to spend some time reading around subjects and topics just to find something that interests you. You know, think about where you can find the research sources or the design briefs or whatever. So you will be reading widely about the subject, okay? And then what you'll be doing alongside that is a bit of a diary or an activity log. Now, this isn't just what you've done day to day, but this is where you are coming up with challenges or problems that you want to solve. So it's an evaluative process, okay, leading you through the project. So that also is part of the project. Then, of course, the main part of the project is what you found out. So a well thought argument with a counter argument. So your title should have either a yes or a no, with or alternative viewpoints, because what will happen with your EPQ is that you're going to develop your critical thinking. So whatever you think you're going to do your project on will have two sides. It will have a for and against maybe, or just alternative viewpoints. So you've got to consider both viewpoints, and then in the conclusion kind of consider whether your viewpoint is still the same, or whether through the evidence and the reading that you've done and the research, whether you've changed your viewpoint, okay? So what we need to also do is to have a review of the literature. So you're going to obviously read widely across the subject and then come up with some really good sources that support or counter argue your question. And then you've got to think about evaluating those sources in terms of, you know, are they biased? Are they speculative? Are they opinions? You know, where have you found them? Is it in a newspaper? Is it in an e-journal or a blog or a TED talk or an academic journal? So that, you know, you're researching to find the most academic source that you can. And then you, as I said before, you do a presentation of the outcomes and then evaluation. You know, what have you learned? You know, what are the shortcomings of your project? What have you learned that you can take forward to? And this is the really lovely bit, which my students now are preparing for their presentations. So that's the actual structure and the parts of the structure. So whether you do a dissertation or an artifact or an investigation or a performance, you will have those 5 structures, okay? So the really amazing thing and why students love doing EPQ is that you choose the topic, okay? So you move away from your studies, and you choose something that interests you. Now, if you're doing maybe maths and psychology as subjects, you might want to choose something that combines both, or there might be something within psychology or business studies or economics or science that you think, God, that's really interesting. I'd like to research that more. I'd like to investigate that more. And that's something that within that particular field that you want to investigate further, because what you want to think about as an EPQ is, if you're smart about this, is actually something that interests you that will link to your university course or link to a career options in the future as well. So that if it's something that genuinely interests you and wants to be part of your career, it's something that you can continue developing as well. So think about what you are good at, you know, which project is right for you. Are you creative? You know, would you think about a performance or an artifact maybe? Are you more practical? So therefore a dissertation might be more useful. Are you technological? So these are the really exciting things that you can consider. But most students who do an EPQ really love doing it because it's something that they have chosen. It's not something that your teacher is in any of your subjects is going to choose for you. Okay, move along, please. Okay, so the highlights. So EPQ is graded A star to E, and it holds the equivalence of half a GCSE, a GCE A level at A star to E. So it's out of 54 marks, and 44 marks, I think, is an A grade, roughly. And it's worth an extra UCAS points, a maximum of 70 extra UCAS points, and worth half an A level. And this is really exciting. I have had some data put together very recently, and Worthing College students who achieved a high grade for their project, this is an average over the last few years, scored 1.67 grades higher than their minimum expected grade on average across all their subjects. So what we're saying, we have data, we have proof that if you do an EPQ and you do it well, then it's going to benefit you in all of your subjects, okay, which I think is really, really exciting. But those, if you want to get an A star, a high grade in EPQ, then, you know, those students are the ones that really, really enjoy their EPQ and work hard at it. Okay, next slide. So how will you study it? So you'll start EPQ in June of year 12. And you'll have 3 teaching weeks where we will start preparing you and getting you to think about a subject focus, so that over the summer you can do your reading and start collecting your data sources, your research, or start designing your brief or your performance or your artifact or investigation. Because the reading does take time, and over the summer it's a really good time to make a start, because you can get all of those sources together, ready for year 13 enrolment in September, where you'll be allocated an advisor, teacher, who will be your tutor assessor. So the role of the tutor assessor is giving you the input into the skills to develop and how to write academically. Because some of you perhaps doing maths or science or computer science will never perhaps have written an essay. So that's why it's really good to get you prepared for your first year at university. So once the skills have been developed, we will provide support and guidance while you complete your project. So you'll be finished your project prior to Easter of the following year, so that it won't impact on your final A-level preparation of your other subjects. So you can get your EPQ done and dusted, out of the way, or earlier if you want to, that's absolutely fine. So get it done, and then you can concentrate on your other subjects. So what we do is assess the final outcome. So we mark it, and then it's externally moderated by Edexcel. Okay, move along, please. So enrichment, so we weren't able to do this last year, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to do this year, is to visit a university library prior to you going off and doing your research over the summer, because university libraries are absolutely incredible. The last place we went to was the University of Chichester Library, their brand new library over at their Bognor campus, which was amazing. So I've got collaboration with University of Southampton. They've prepared lectures for us. So we're working very closely with the University of Southampton and their EPQ department there. And we've had some fantastic enrichment seminars from them about academic writing and research. Okay, and as we go forward, as we come out of lockdown, we'll be thinking of other opportunities for EPQ students as well to develop those skills. Okay, and I think the next slide, please, is now what we're going to hear now is some actual, these are some of my students. This was filmed last week. They're going to tell you from their point of view about their experience of EPQ.
What attracted me to do an EPQ was the freedom of choice within the project, so I could choose what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Also how it strengthens your uni profile and all your academics, so it gives you more of a bit of a boost. And also the fact that the dissertation helps me prepare for uni work and what I'll be doing next year. And my topic is about abortion laws in Northern Ireland. I chose this topic because I've always been very passionate about this. And the law side of it is relating to my studies and what I want to do when I get older. And the words of advice I'd give to next year's students is to find good sources during your year 12 summer.
Hi, I'm an EPQ student. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with EPQ and why I enjoyed doing it. One of the things that attracted me to EPQ was its independence and the opportunity for me to study something I'm really interested in. Now, I took ideas from both my politics and history courses, and I chose my topic on something to do with the Labour Party. Because it's history, I chose to focus on the Labour Party in the 1970s. Now, my dissertation combines a variety of different elements, but importantly, I choose what they are. I have complete control over that, and one of the things that I best enjoyed was the research process whereby I read different books, I watched different documentaries, I even spoke to some politicians over email, and I found a huge amount of information that I hadn't really considered before. And from that, I was able to write out my dissertation, but importantly, you also evaluate your own sources as well. Now, if you do A-level history, you know that evaluating sources is an incredibly important part of it, and that continues in EPQ as well. If I was to talk about what advice I'd give to next year's students, I'd say definitely to make sure that when you come to doing your literature review, which is a significant part of the final thing, you first of all evaluate your sources individually. So for example, I evaluated one of my books and its strengths and limitations, but you also need to look at the research base as a whole. You need to understand what are general strengths of your literature review and general limitations of your literature review. But I think if I'm to stress one thing about EPQ, it's that I really enjoyed the opportunity to be completely independent, and I had complete control over my subject and how I explored it.
Hi, so I took an EPQ because personally I don't take any essay subjects, and I know that being able to write essays is really important for when you go to university. So I decided that it'd be a good chance to practice my essay writing capabilities. And also I know that it looks really good on a uni application, and it really boosts your application to loads of the universities. So my particular topic is there gender imbalance when experiencing a heart attack, and I chose this because I really like science and I want to do medicine at university, so I kind of had that, it needed to be something sciencey, and I really like the anatomy of the heart. So I combined that with a social issue of gender, because gender issues always in the media and it's always something talked about, so I thought it'd be really interesting to do my research based on that. And yeah, I kind of just merged them two together, and then I came to my question. And then probably my biggest advice for people taking the EPQ is to be really organised and kind of just having good time management, because the quicker you're able to do your next section, the more feedback you're able to get, and the more time for editing and improving your EPQ you'll have.
So what initially attracted me to the EPQ was that obviously there's always great talk about the step up from college to university. And a big part of that is being an independent learner, and doing an EPQ is very independent and mimics that more closely of things you have to do at university. So it was a good way to practice some of those skills. I mean, in terms of my subject, I did it regarding how to reduce reoffending from those who have gone to prison. And that's closely linked to the fact that I went to a talk by a surgeon about reoffending in London. And I wanted to do a law degree, so obviously the consequence of the legal system, and a big part of that is how you punish those who have broken it and how you stop those who have broken it to not do those same actions again. And in terms of advice, I think my biggest piece of advice, even if you've not officially started it yet, at the college, is really just try and do as much as you can yourself, because although there's going to be fine-tuning in terms of essay structure and the like, if you know what topics you want to do and you do the bulk of the research is something that you have to do on your own mostly, and is something that is the most time-consuming bit. So if you can do it over the summer, or if you can do it in the months prior to actually starting the EPQ, then you're going to be able to save yourself a lot of time.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody has any questions. I put some kind of frequently asked questions, if you like, that students come to me and just say, well, how do I choose my topic and what do I base it on? Well, you choose a topic. I think you've heard from some of the students, they've chosen subjects to do with their qualifications, but something that genuinely interests them. Okay, so you can, if you're interested in doing the EPQ, you can start thinking about a topic, and then we can help you refine it into a working question. So will your EPQ teacher know about the topic I choose to base my project on? Not necessarily. So the role of the tutor assessor is to help you structure your EPQ, and then you can speak directly to your own subject teachers. So the tutor assessors are very skilled in the structure of the EPQ and helping you develop your academic skills to putting the information together. So how will doing an EPQ impact on my other subjects? Well, of course, it is an additional 120 hours perhaps of extra time, but as you've heard the students give you good advice to meet deadlines, be organized. Part of taking on something extra is how you might fit it all in, and we can help you come up with different sort of strategies, if you like, to be organized. Okay, so this is something that we can develop with you as well, is how to be organized, how to manage your time, and so that you give equal weight to your EPQ together with all of your other subjects.
Thanks.
So sorry,
thanks, Nikki. I was just saying we've had some questions start to come through now, so if I just go through those with you. So the first one is, are we taught how to research effectively?
Absolutely, you are. Yes. So with the university visit and the seminars, we teach you how to find research sources, absolutely, and to evaluate them, so that you can go off over the summer and spend time doing your reading and finding, you might find 100 sources. And then, part of the process is teaching you how to refine them, how to validate them in terms of bias, subjectivity, opinion, to make them as academic as you can. So hopefully, you might not have done all of the reading because there may be some refining going on, but you will have done the bulk of the reading. And because it's a project that you're interested in, you should be able to enjoy that process.
Thank you. We've got a question from Lucy. Does my topic have to be related to my other A-level subjects in some way?
If you're doing, I don't know, maths, chemistry and biology, and you do a performance, performing arts, which is nothing that's based on your project, really what we're suggesting is that the EPQ shouldn't be something in your syllabus, but it could be something because you're studying chemistry, because you're interested in chemistry, and it's something that you want to continue studying at university and get a career in chemistry, progress to some sort of career option there, then, it's likely that your project will be chemistry based, but you could be doing sociology at the same time. So it could be an investigation with a life science element, a sociological element to it. So you can combine, or you can just, if you're doing computer science, some students may want to just do a computer science based project because they want to code a program, they want to develop some software or something. So, it's really, really up to you, but it's better to have it based loosely or, applied to one of your current subjects.
Okay. And somebody's asked, would you recommend doing it even if you don't want to go to university?
Absolutely. Because there are other options as well, apprenticeships, going into employment, you're going to be writing reports, you're going to be presenting, you're going to be doing all of those sorts of things. You won't be just going into a job and that's it. You'll be doing courses, you'll be doing, continuing professional development, and you might want to take, who knows, you might go into human resources and they might suggest to you that you do your human resource qualifications. So you might do evening classes, or you might do an open university. So absolutely, yes. Yeah, we wouldn't ever recommend not doing just for university. That's a really good question.
Okay, thank you. And one from Kim, which is a bit more specific. If you were on a sports course, could that link to a performance type project?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Okay. We've had lots of students do sports-based courses. investigations and science. I had a girl that did a couple of years ago. She wanted to see whether different sorts of music played in the gym would make people achieve higher on different machinery. So she did some investigations, observing and measuring people on a rowing machine. So, oh yes, absolutely. Sports are brilliant to do EPQs on.
Yeah. If you choose to do a performance or artifact, you still have an overall question that you have to answer.
Yeah, so it could be, so perhaps you might have a particular artist that you want to emulate, or if it's textiles, perhaps there might be a form of textile or making something that somebody has done. So you would do the research on the artist, and then you would then perhaps use that style or research it to answer a hypothesis, to solve a problem or to answer a question. So there is an element of written. So you're going to, even if you're doing a performance, you're doing a particular style of dance, then there will have been somebody who had researched that before, so there would be secondary sources that you will draw on to give you the ideas for that.
Okay, there's a couple of questions about presentations, so I'm going to kind of combine them a little bit.
Okay.
One is, do you have to present it to people at the end? And the other one is, how long does the presentation have to be, and who is it in front of? So
right.
2 elements of the presentation.
Okay. If you don't want to do a presentation, then you can do a video. Okay. So you don't have to do it in front of people. And I know that's really scary for some people, but it's something that you will develop, and it's a really good idea to try and develop it, because it's a skill that I think we all need to have now, don't we, with Zoom and Teams and whatever. And it's likely that if you're going for interviews, or you're working at university, that you will have to do it. So we do recommend you try, but it's not the end of the world. So I've got students preparing their dissertation, their presentations at the moment. It's 10 minutes long. So it's not, I know 10 minutes sounds a long time, but it absolutely flies by. You do your presentation on your project. So it's something you will be very confident about and you will know loads about because it's your project. So you can do it in front of your tutor assessor, or you can invite people in. I've had a student who's done a political dissertation. He ran through his practice presentation with me this morning, and we're recommending that so many people want to see it because it's such an exciting EPQ. So you could invite 10 people, or you could invite nobody. It's completely up to you.
Okay, thank you.
And then what you will do is we will sort of assess you on the presentation, and you will include that as part of you'll print it off, if you like, and that will be part of your project. So don't worry if you're thinking I'm a little bit not very confident about it. So there are options to get around that.
Yeah, I've had students film themselves in the past, and it actually works really well if that's what they choose to do. So it's if you really can't do it, there are other options. Can you do a comparison? So in your EPQ, you go through technical similarities and differences, surveys of public opinions, etc.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a student doing comparisons of two things as well. So as long as you develop that evaluative writing, you can analyze two things and compare. It's quite a good way of showing evaluation. Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
I'm sure this is going to be a yes to this question. Does an EPQ help your application to all universities, e.g. Oxbridge?
Yes. Yes.
That's just a straight yes to that one.
I mean, yes, it absolutely does. I think I've got some. Yeah, I mean, if I think what I would suggest is when you're applying to universities, have a look on their websites and just see. But all universities welcome students who do EPQ. It make you stand out from the rest because it's something extra for your academic studies, and it means that you're going to be a fabulous student for that university, and it shows willingness, it shows motivation, that you want to get ahead in your first year.
Yeah, and it's going to give you something really interesting to talk about in your interview as well.
Yeah, and on your personal statement. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take this one. If we sign up to it, can we change our mind if we don't like it? Yes, yes, of course. There's always that option. I think it's a really good idea to express an interest as soon as possible, so you can find out a little bit more about it and then see if it really is going to suit you. It is, you know, it's quite a commitment to take on, isn't it, Nikki? So it needs to be carefully thought through before you pick it up. So the sooner you let us know you're interested, the more advice we can give you before you start. Does your presentation affect your grade?
I was worried about the presentation already. It's a small part. It's 9 marks out of 54, and that's not just the presentation, that's the evaluative. So it's not the biggest part by any means, no. So yeah, that's fine.
There's a question about who's going to be running the EPQ at Hayward Heath. I don't think I can answer that at the moment, but I will pass that question on to Ben and make sure that's responded to, so he can let everybody know at Hayward Heath who's going to be running it. How does Edexcel mark the EPQ? Does an invigilator watch the presentation too? No.
No. The Edexcel don't mark it, but what happens is that we mark it as tutor assessors, and then we moderate internally, and then Edexcel ask for a sample, so that we have to send off the sample for external moderation. But I will say that the last 2 years we've done it, we've had fabulous feedback from Edexcel. So you're in safe hands. We do know what we're doing.
They've definitely supported our marking, so no concerns there. Do you have to have something alongside your essay, or can you just do an essay? So it's a dissertation is much more than an essay. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, Nikki.
Well, yes, I mean, the dissertation is finding a topic, subject focus, and then finding a question. So, for example, I think I've got some examples of, I can't find them now. Oh, here we are. So, dissertation title, this is one here. Do violent computer games contribute to antisocial behaviour? So that's a question. So that has a yes or a no. So you might have an opinion. Oh, yes, absolutely, definitely. There is definitely a correlation between violent computer games and antisocial behaviour. So you would research that. So you would look at all of the research, or not all of it, because there's probably lots, but that's the other thing. You've got to find out whether there is enough research that you can use for your projects. So there's likely to be a lot of research. So then you research, yes, computer games do contribute to antisocial behaviour, and no, they don't. So then what you do is you have to do a literature review, which you would do at university. So you do a analysis of the literature. Obviously not all of it. Part of your reading will be finding the most, if you like, academic sources that you can use to support, yes, computer games do contribute to antisocial behaviour, and then the counter argument, no, it doesn't. So that might be dragging you away from thinking, well, obviously they do contribute to antisocial behaviour, but actually that might not be the case. So the essay will be the main part, up to 24 marks of that 54 is that discussion, which is going to be probably about 3,000 word discussion. So you evaluating, so it's really writing an argument about, having read about it, you're knowledgeable about it. So you use the sources that you've read about to be able to answer your question. So yes, they do, no, they don't. And then overall, on balance, they don't contribute to antisocial behaviour, but it might, what it might depend on. Okay. And then you do, recommendations, if you were carrying on this project further, what would you recommend as a wider social thing? And then your evaluation and your conclusion. So of course, in addition to that, you've got your activity log, which is like your diary that runs alongside, and your project proposal form, which is coming up with your research sources and your question, your subject focus and your question that drives the project. So it's a bit more than an essay.
Mm. And it kind of links, somebody else has asked if they can have access to examples. Yes, of course, we will sort those out for you, and at Hayward Heath as well. And I think once you've seen a few examples of what people have done, it starts to make a bit more sense as to how it fits together and what sort of level you need to be working at and what you're aiming for in the overall project. So it's really helpful to look at some examples. So we'll make sure those are definitely available to you. Somebody's asked, I can pick this one up, how do you register for the EPQ? So what we're going to do is we've got a list of attendees this evening, or people that have registered for the session, even if they weren't able to attend this evening. And what I will do is I will email you out a link to a form that you can fill in, just expressing your interest. We're not necessarily signing you up at the moment, but it's just to get an idea of who is interested so we can make contact with you. On that form, it also asks you if you've got some ideas about what you want to do, you can put that on there as well. It's not essential, but it's helpful for us to know if you've already got some ideas that you can put those on there too. So that's how you register. That will come out to you by the email that you registered for the session this evening. And I think there's a couple more questions come in. Does primary data need to be collected, or can it all be secondary? And that's from Juliet.
Hi, Juliet. Well, if you're doing a dissertation, then you will be using secondary sources, but you can use some primary sources. So a couple of my students have used predominantly secondary sources for their dissertations, but they've also done a couple of interviews. But if you're doing an investigation, then a science investigation, then predominantly you will be doing experiments or questionnaires or some sort of primary field research. Okay, so a student a couple of years ago I can't remember the actual focus, but she was monitoring and investigating some sort of insect that lives in a local pond near where she lives, and she was curious about it. So she was doing lots of experiments. So there was lots of photographs, lots of measurements of things, and in her project, which was really, really interesting. So if you are science-based, then it's really, really good thing to do. And also you will be developing your academic writing, because you do have to write up your investigations and look. You might do an element of secondary research as well, because there could be theories that relate to what you're doing as well.
I think that really depends on what kind of project you're doing, doesn't it? And what subject you're researching as to the proportion of primary and secondary data that you would be looking for. Killer question. Is there any particular topic which is more popular than others?
Well, we haven't had any this year, but serial killers, nature or nurture has popped up, and Emma's laughing there. But things to do with ethical subjects as well. I'm just trying to think of some actually. Things to do with if you want to go into medicine, then we've got lots of combining medical and, I'm just trying to think, medicine and social sciences. Lots of social science type dissertations come up.
One of the students in the video talked about the abortion laws, didn't she? So some really sort of, quite sometimes harrowing subjects are quite popular, aren't they, for people to really get to grips with?
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything that is more popular, but I think serial killers and anything like that tends to come up quite frequently.
Yes, and things like lots of social science type things, or sports things, healthy eating, those sorts of things.
I had one a couple of years ago about the effects of performance enhancing drugs, and that was a student that was doing a sport qualification as well. So she was really interested in how those were developing, and kind of playing devil's advocate with the approach she was taking to that question as well. So that's always a good thing to do as well.
Yeah, if you have a look on the EdXL website and have a look at EPQ, EdXL EPQ, they have got their own list of titles, so you can just have a look, and they're I think they're split into dissertations, artifacts, investigations, and performances. So you can just get an idea of the sorts of titles that you could use.
I'm just laughing at the question, sorry, you can't see them coming through, but anonymous attendee, no, the student did not take performance enhancing drugs to test them as part of their project. Any subjects that you recommend people avoiding? That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. I
can't really think of anything that would say no. I think we might recommend an approach to that question if it's a little bit controversial. But I don't think there's anything that people, you know, we would say to avoid, really. I think it's open, really. And does it matter if the topic is quite popular? So
no, not at all. Not at all.
I think that's Juliet again, so I already asked the question this evening. I think the thing about that is making it your own and taking your own direction. It doesn't matter if the topic is popular.
I mean, sometimes if you choose a topic that isn't popular, or you know, like if you wanted to do something on the pandemic, you know, I might just steer you away from that, because you know, it's too fresh, isn't it? We haven't got, I mean, there's lots of research about it, but we haven't had that time to really, for the academics to really get, you know, to reflect on it and build up that body of research. So that's when, you know, popular subjects, if you like, might be a good thing to do, because there's lots and lots of research out there.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier, doesn't it, if you've got a body of research to base your topic on. Because
sometimes we have to say students come up with a dead end, so they might spend, I don't know, a couple of weeks trying to find out about a topic that really interests them, and then have to change it completely because they can't find enough research on it. You know, nobody is, you know, not enough people have spent time or found it of interest to carry on further. So the girl who's doing the heart attack one, you know, the gender imbalance is so interesting. There's masses of stuff out there, research, data, academic stuff, and you know, she's had an absolute ball just reading around it because it's something that really interests her.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I've really not even considered it as a topic to look into, but and that's one wanting to read that one, I think.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I feel very privileged, as I know Emma does as well, because I know so much stuff now. One girl did something on dentistry, and I still remember elements of that when I go and see my dentist. You know, it's just incredible the interesting topics that you can choose, and because you can choose it, you know, I get so excited when I'm reading them because it's just fabulous, and seeing you absolutely shine and choosing a topic of absolutely your choice is really good.
It's definitely a privilege. I agree with that, because the ideas that you come up with are just knock us for six sometimes, because
absolutely.
And it's really lovely to see how you develop. And I think importantly what Nikki said there about sometimes coming up against a dead end, it's to understand that the EPQ project is not about getting that right answer. It will take you in different directions you didn't expect it to, and sometimes you will come up against a struggle, but that's something you can discuss when you're writing it up. So it's not that you've failed at that, it's just that you've come up against something you didn't expect, and it's how you deal with that and how you move forward from that. So it's not all about getting the right answer all the time. Books, do we have to use books, or can we just use online articles? We definitely recommend you having a range of sources, and books, and those academic books, if you can get to the university libraries and use their sources as well, will definitely enhance your results. So online articles are not the only thing that you should be looking at all. We're kind of coming towards the end of the time. We've got quite a few questions, just the last ones coming in, so we're going to try and get to those as well. What's the most common mistakes people make?
Running out of time and not meeting deadlines, I think is you know, if you just leave it, don't meet the deadlines, don't really engage or motivate yourself to do it, because it is, as Emma was saying, it is something extra, and you will come up with challenges and you've got to overcome them. And you know, if you bury your head in the sand, time drips away and you just do a rubbish project, you know. So if you're going to do EPQ, you've really got to do it well, and you want to do it well. So those students that do it well, you know, are organized. And you know, don't worry if you think, well, I'm not organized, because it's something that you can really develop. But you know, it isn't easy. You know, you will come up with dead ends and challenges, so I will warn you now. But if you are resilient, and you will develop that resilience, and determined to do a good project because you're doing it about something you love, then it will be a breeze. Yeah.
And as we're coming to a conclusion, there's a question about conclusion, which is quite apt, so we'll just finish on that one. Do you have to come to a definitive conclusion?
No. You know, it could be an on balance, you know, but that's part of the evaluation, isn't it? you know, you might come up with, you know, you're not sure, but again, it's not what you think. You have an opinion when you start, but by you researching, that's why the research is so important, because it will help you. It will help you come up with, you know, there may not be a definitive. You know, it may be that you would want to do further research, you know, but that's part of the process. That's part of the evaluation. If you come up with a yes, this is definitely the right thing, then it wouldn't be a very good project. I don't think it wouldn't be very interesting.
I'd be very surprised if there was that kind of conclusion at the end of the project.
Yeah.
So just thank you, Nikki, for your input this evening and giving everybody your expertise and knowledge on the project and how you've taught it and worked with students over the last few years. A big thank you to everybody for watching our presentation this evening. As I say, you can go onto the website to get more details, and if you've registered for the session this evening, you will be getting an email from me tomorrow with a link to the form so you can register your interest, and I'll make sure that Ben lets all the students know who will be managing it at Haywards Heath, so you're aware of who that is. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.